Hello, welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me as Skeindeer on Ravelry and Instagram, as well as the Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits, where there is lots of fun activity going on, especially for the Colleague World Socks Cal, which I'm currently hosting. It doesn't have a final date. I'm just, as ever, enjoying seeing all the different versions you guys are coming up with, and kind of seeing also how you guys are helping each other out with trying to figure out kind of colorwork socks for the first time. It's been very educating for me actually, so head over there if you are curious. There is also another knit along going on, which is for the flea cardigan, aka Damejakka Loppa by Pinneguri, aka the Needle Lady. It's been co-hosted by me and Kristen of Vollenbein. It's basically because we are both knitting this cardigan, so why don't you guys hop along as well, and there will be prizes and maybe even a deadline at some point. But for now, it is a open knit along. I'm very excited about this. As I mentioned in my last episode, I have been swatching for it. This was the swatch I came up with and I didn't really like it for a variety of reasons. I don't think it's a good fit, it's suitable for colorwork, which is something I never thought I'd say about a 2-ply or sticky yarn, but I think maybe it has just better purposes elsewhere, really. It just doesn't kind of fluff up in the body as well. It works better in here actually, so it's maybe the gauge is the problem, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is I may actually have to do a yarn order, which is annoying because I have so much yarn, which is going to be very relevant for this episode. As you can see, my shelf is empty, so I thought I would just tell you up front. This episode is probably very long. I don't know, I just started recording, but it's probably very long because I have every intention of being brutally honest about the size of my stash with you guys. Thus, why my shelf is empty and why you can see some bits and bobs on my bed. There is yarn everywhere here, and I will show you that at the end of the episode. I'm just gonna tell you that now in case you feel like this is a long episode and I don't know if I want to watch it. I will tell you when we get to the stash and you can decide if you want to watch that or not. The rest of this usual podcast content will be before then. But yes, it bothers me a great deal that I have to order yarn for something that I have kind of plenty of yarn for. It's just not quite how I want it to be, so I'm just gonna have to do it. Yeah. Also, welcome to this podcast. I should say this right up, shouldn't I? That's how people do it. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer. Thank you so much for coming back and for choosing my podcast. And welcome to those of you who are new to this podcast, because I know there are many of you, especially this week. Yeah, I am very flattered that you have chosen to watch this podcast, that you have maybe subscribed, joined my group on Ravelry, all that stuff. I should tell you kind of what kind of podcast this is, I suppose. It's focused on my interest in knitting and only knitting. I don't spin, I don't sew, I don't dye, I don't weave. I wish I did all those things, but I just knit, and I am really into color work. I am really into traditional Norwegian knitting, as well as other ethnic traditions from, like, you know, the Baltics, the Shetland Islands, sort of neighboring areas where color work happens, stranded color work to be specific. I do dabble into the more modern stuff as well from time to time, so you'll see a bit of everything here really. So yes, I just thought we could crack on and talk about finished objects. I have finished objects in plural this week. Should we start with the one that's making me a bit upset? So the reason why it is making me a bit upset, now I should tell you which project this is. It is my Agatha cardigan. Now why is it making me upset, you might wonder? Well, it's been a process really. I loved it right until the point that I was gonna soak it and kind of let it dry to kind of open the lace a bit. I haven't stretch blocked it or anything. It literally was soak and dry, and it just grew like a monster, and it was so big, and I was like, everything has to be ripped up, especially the sleeves. And even when it was like 99% dry, it was still way too big. I felt like it was too big when it was even entirely dry. And then I put it on today, and I hope I didn't like gain lots of weight in one day. Probably not. I didn't eat that much. It is actually not that big anymore. But for days since the soak, for the days it took to dry and it took to just be dry, it was just big. It was so big and awful. It's still a bit on the larger side, so I'm going to show you by putting it on. So that's why I haven't weaved in the ends actually, because I've been literally considering sending it the whole thing to the frog pond. I'm gonna try it on. So you can see it is a lot looser than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a very fitted cardigan. But suppose I'm buttoning this up now. Actually, I don't need it to be tighter than this. This is perfect. The bodice, I think, can stay. The bodice is safe. It's a bit weird that it overlaps here though. Like, I guess I'm not as busty as I thought when I cast on. Oh dear. Now the problem is this sleeve. First of all, ridiculously long and ridiculously baggy. And this is also funny because even after it was dry, it was this baggy. It was like hanging down here, over here. It's still kind of doing that. Like, this is not good, really. So I think maybe the sleeves might be sent to the frog pond, and I might actually just rip them up to here and then do the decrease here and just keep the sleeve a lot slimmer. But the funny thing is, on this sleeve, it's fine. I've done the same thing on both sleeves, and this sleeve is perfect. No idea why. Everything was the same, literally needle size, where I changed needle size, like circumference. It's all the same. I don't know why this one is bat-wing crazy, and this one, like, it's got some, but it's generally fine. So there we have it then. So I think, pretend that this is bottomed up. Bottomed up. Buttoned. I can't say that word. Pretend that it is closed with buttons. It's okay. It's kind of loose up here. Armholes are a bit open, but that was generally my executive decision there, so no fault of the pattern. Although I do have some gripe with the pattern, and that might have helped me solve this particular issue if gauge was written in stockinette. For some reason in the pattern, the gauge is basically kind of either the rib or the lace. So you can put your ruler here and see if you're at gauge. You can put your ruler here and see if you're at gauge. But you can't actually make a stockinette swatch and see if you have the same gauge as when the designer does a stockinette swatch, so that you know that everything will be fine. Because if you do a swatch in rib, conventional knitting wisdom says you shouldn't stretch block rib because that will lose its rib qualities. And had I just been allowed to kind of do a stockinette swatch, I think that would be fine. I wouldn't have had this problem really, so that's kind of upsetting. Yeah, enough about that. I've had some problems with this pattern. I also tried using, you know, a bit of pattern support, and that wasn't a positive experience really. I'm gonna take this off. It's really warm. It's so warm in London. It was freezing last week and it was so much rain, and now it's just real roasting here. I've shut the windows just to keep it a bit quiet for the recording of this podcast, and I've shut down the blinds a bit, so I might look a bit odd being all pale here, and like, yeah, you can see the difference. But yeah, I have a finished object. I wish I could sound a bit more cheerful about this project, but it has been a bit of a painful process after the whole blocking scenario. But now it's actually something I'm kind of accepting a bit more. The sleeve situation I will have to have a think about. I'll be happy to hear if you have any input there. I'm gonna definitely pick the brains of a couple of friends of mine. Who knows, maybe how I could deal with this. Or maybe it's just time to wave in the ends and accept. Maybe. I'm just so happy it's not as a disaster that I was certain it would be the past couple of days. It really actually got to my mood in a way that I didn't think knitting could. Mixed with a couple of other things as well, but still I was like, oh no, I worked on this since January and I really loved working on it, and this yarn is so precious, and this color, oh, this color, I want to give you a close-up because it really does look delicious. This is the inside. Oh dear, how many times have I done this now? So yeah, I am happier with it than I was when I was writing up the show notes, that's for sure. I can definitely tell that. So the Agatha cardigan Bandy Sutherland in Quince & Co. Lark. Finished. Not quite finished, but we'll get there. Now, I did say finished objects. I have cast on another project, and it is the Winter Shawl by Pinnigoody, known as the Needle Lady, or Almeida. She has a name. So there we have it. So this is, if you go look for this pattern, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to disappoint you. This is a test knit for a pattern. I think it's gonna be published in the autumn. So it's not there yet. I'm gonna remind you when the pattern comes out, because you should make this. This is the most lovely thing. I am just so happy that I said yes to do this test knit. I adore this shawl. This is the kind of shawl that I like. This is the kind of shawl that I want. Whenever you see me being slightly unhappy with the shawl that I made, it's because I want this and I have it now. So I guess I can just stop knitting shawls. It's not gonna happen. So this is knit in Brooklyn Tweed Loft, which is a yarn that I was totally prepared to say is overhyped and ridiculous and breaks easily, blah blah blah. I love it. I'm a complete Brooklyn Tweed convert. It is very unique. I have never used any yarn like Brooklyn Tweed Loft, and you know me, I use a lot of rustic yarn. I use woolen spun yarn all the time. This is nothing like that. If this is your first meeting with woolen spun yarn and rustic yarns, know that this is a complete unique thing. Yes, you can knit Brooklyn Tweed patterns and substitute their yarns with, say, Shetland yarns, but they're not the same. This is a completely different beast. Main thing is that, I mean, this is the thickness of maybe sport weight, possibly DK, and has the weight of a very light fingering. It's ridiculous. So this thing weighs somewhere between 150 grams and 200 grams. So I used half a skein for this section, a whole skein here, a whole skein here, half a skein here, and whatever I had left with the first half here on the I-cord. That's it. So let's just wear this. I don't care it's too hot. I wear this thing all the time now because I love it. This is how I wear my shawls because I am just a one-trick pony. So the thing is, using this yarn gives this shawl a complete different like function, because it's really like it stays up around my neck. It's not something like that's gonna hang limp around my neck like, say, a superwash merino would. Although I'm actually toying with the idea of doing this pattern again in a superwash merino just because I like the shape. I know it's gonna have a different body to it, but the construction, shape, method thing, 2 thumbs up. So a little close up. So I want to show you actually the little structure here, because it's not all garter. You can see here as well. It's a double moss stitch going on. So yeah, just brace yourself for winter because this shawl is coming. Oh, I love it so much. Yeah. Perfect, perfect. And as ever, my neighbour's dog is joining us today, as well as the guy who's blowing leaves with this thing that sounds like a chainsaw. You can fortunately not hear it, I think, because I shut the windows, but I have to suffer, so the things I do for you guys. So yes, putting this shawl away, just want to hold it up in front of you, in front of the camera, one last time. I adore this shawl. It was exactly what I needed after the disaster of the cardigan. That turned out to not be such a disaster after all, but still, having actually bound off this shawl the very same day was like, it kept me sane, let's just say that. As for works in progress, aka whips, I have picked up the Hansel Hap again, and the progress I made is barely noticeable, but that's kind of illustrating how long the knitted on edge actually takes. So I have done 3 triangles of the edge. Oh dear, this is going to take forever, isn't it? And I'm really eager to make another hap. It could even be another Hansel Hap. I thought it was really enjoyable, and I think that might actually be a more suitable place for my It's a Good Finny yarn, as well as some other yarns that we will have a look at. I'm not going to buy more yarn for a hap, I promise. So, I mean, for those of you who haven't seen it before, I suppose I could show you the whole thing. It's a whole garter square, knit from one corner to the other, so increasing to the full width and then decreasing. And it has this feathers and fan thing knit in the round. So it looks nicer on this side, doesn't it? I'm doing the whole thing in one colour, an undyed pile of skeins from Laxton's Limited in the BFL Masham mix. I have been told it's called Masham, not Masham. I'm for it, what can I say? So yes, it's going to take a while longer, but it's gonna be the best thing. I'm just gonna wrap myself into this thing when it's like a cold, chilly summer night. it's just the best. And I love how cheap it smells when I take it out of my project bag. I have also cast on a project. I've cast on 2. And the first one is the Transcendence socks. And this is a sock design that I am working on in collaboration with Ovis Etc. yarns. So Saskia of Ovis Etc. asked me if I wanted some yarn and I could make a design of it. And I was like, yeah. So this is the 2 skeins I am knitting from right now. I have also used some of the yellow and red, and so this is what it looks like for right now. It's funny because the yellow shows less on this side than it does on this side. I might have to tweak my strand a bit. It might just be a bit tight. And yeah, these socks, you guys, they're so good. So the reason they're called Transcendence socks is because I got inspired by the colour scheme of the album cover of the Transcendence album by the Devin Townsend Project, because I just love that album and the colour scheme is pretty nice. So this is a very rustic sock yarn, which I love. It has nylon in it. It is a toa pattern, but it's going to be super easy to convert to cuff down. I don't know if I'm going to write that into the pattern, but I really don't think you're going to need it. So that's what we have now. Oh yes, I promised to talk more about needles, didn't I? I am using a 9-inch circular by Chiagu. I have days where I love this needle and some days where I'm like, I can't be bothered. Give me Magic Loop. But I don't really like Magic Loop either. I just prefer it to DPNs. I know how to use all 3, so it's not an issue there. It's just what I prefer. And I think if I just get into these socks a bit more, the 9-inch mojo will come back to me. I've said before, I can only work on Chiagu's 9-inch and sometimes Hayahayas. I cannot stand Addy's 9-inch. I know they come up with some that have one needle that's a bit longer than the others, and that might actually be what is the solution to my issues with the Addy needle that I have. So yeah, it's very brand specific whether I can knit in a 9-inch or not. So what's this other cast on, I hear you say? Wow, I have been itching to knit just a very kind of quick sweater and haven't been able to really decide on how yet. I have been thinking raglan, I've been thinking contiguous, I've been thinking doing this cigarette method by Åsa Tikosa. But at the end of the day, I have been knitting to make the Chuck sweater band is Saturn. So even though I have some gripe with the pattern writing, I am able to follow it. So why not just do it the way I want to do it? So it will have some modifications. And I have knitted up 1 skein already. And this entire thing is just 1 skein of Skeindeer Aran Merino. So how crazy is that? So I just knitted this Saturday night and on Sunday. And I've already made half the bodies, really. Even the bit that's just knitted back and forth with a lot of annoying purling, I have done. It is over. It's just in and around from here. Yes. So, what can I say about this yarn? It's like, I don't understand how this is wool. It feels like cotton in every way. It's really, it doesn't have any sort of rigidity. It's like cotton. It feels like cotton. It's like knitted cotton. It has this sort of toughness of it as well that can be a bit hard on your hands. But I know it's not cotton and it's lamb's wool, because if I do this, it breaks. That would not happen with cotton. You would have to suffer a bit more. So I can tell it's lamb's wool. It's just, it feels like cotton. So the other thing I have to say about this yarn, it bleeds. My hands have been looking like I have been picking blueberries. Like, it's been extreme. I still have a bit of a dent over where I carried the yarn. As you can see, this was really, really strong, like a proper red line before I had a shower today. So, and obviously washed my hands in general. So that's, I look decent for the podcast. But last night, I was showing some knitting friends my hands on webcam. They were like, but this is what happens with yarn and me. I don't think this is a criticism for Skeindeer. It has happened with Debonair, with hedgehog fibers, with Countess Ablaze, probably some other big grand dyers as well. It's really not down to the dyer, I think, because I get this with pretty much everybody. It's to do with just me loving really, really dual tone colors. And this is also a natural dye. It's dyed with lac, whatever that is, which is the best red color ever. So ignore these stitch markers. I don't know why I have them. But yeah, you can see the cabling, the lovely cabling I don't do cables much, but I'm fully capable of doing them. It's really not that hard, with or without the cable needle. Though now I'll come back to using the cable needle again. Isn't that weird? I'm, again, happy to do it without the needle. I can just kind of drop some stitches and yeah, now I'm cable needling. What can you do? Oh, I just want to hold this up forever and ever. So just give you an idea of how the stitches look. It's a bit uneven where I'm purling, but as soon as I was able to join around, it's just a walk in the park, really. So yeah, not much else I can tell you about this, I think. I have done some modifications, like I said. I didn't like the dip in the neckline that the pattern calls for. We basically knit 2 shoulder pieces before you join the back, and I'm like, I don't want the neckline to drop. That always bothers me with sweaters, so why would I do that on purpose? So it's really quite straight on top, so it's gonna give the rib a bit over here, which I actually think I will prefer. Up. And I'm also now actually not gonna decrease anymore. The decreases from the armpit down to the waist already starts here, and I've done 2 rounds, so I decreased 8 stitches in total, and I'm like, that's never going to fit. My bust to waist ratio, it's not that of Satellins, let's just say that. So I think I'm gonna stop decreasing already now. If I get down to the waist and I found actually this can be a bit more snug, I can just do that down there. I don't think it's gonna be a disaster if I do that. Because right now I'm not even done with my chest yet, and I can't be decreasing then, because that's just gonna be boob craziness. So I'm gonna put this away now. Needles, yes, I'm using a Knit Pro Nova. I like my Knit Pro Novas, they are pretty good for this particular purpose. I do miss the higher cables where they kind of rotate around the cable, but you can't have everything. By the way, before anyone says anything, I did swatch. I want to talk about how I do swatches actually. I've done that before. I have another swatch as well, and as you will notice with all of these, they are diamond shaped. So this was my swatch for the shawl, which is why it's perfect. So what I have here, it says needle 4.5 on this little poster, and here it says needle 5. I wrote it in Norwegian because sometimes my brain is Norwegian, sometimes it's not. Like my knitting notebook, it's like 50-50 Norwegian and English. It's weird, my brain is odd. So I found that actually knitting on the recommended needle size 5, I knit looser than the pattern said. That's never happened to me before, but maybe Saturn is actually tighter knitted than me. Who knew? So, could explain. The Agatha cardigan, of course, which was hard to me to find out because I couldn't swatch in a kind of desirable way. Anyway, enough complaining, enough complaining. I found my gauge with this 4.5 needle. So I can now keep this, and I know how this yarn works with me in the future. It could also be an issue with this being merino and the pattern actually not being designed for merino. This yarn has very little kind of springiness to it. That's why I feel like it's more like cotton. So that could be a reason as well. It's not going to kind of contract. So things will just be bigger. Oh, I just love this red though. I just love it so much. Anyway, moving on, moving on. We have a lot to cover today. Before we get into the stash pile, we are gonna go to the frog pond. That's right. I was almost sure the Agatha would be in that pond. But no, there will only be 3 projects in the frog pond. And all of them I think I might re-knit again. The first is this mystery thing that I was doing. I say it's a mystery because I knew I was making, but I wasn't going to tell you until it was done and I could show you how amazing it was going to be. But this was going to be a skirt, but I'm way off gauge. This is not, my waist is not like this, okay? So should have realized that sooner. Anyway, I like the gauge I achieved actually, so I think ripping it out, fewer stitches, this should work out very quickly again. Although this was not a quick job, let me tell you, there's a lot of stockinette happening here. So the plan was just knit a bit here, do a purl row, fold over, so you have a hem, could do some stretchiness in here, knit this down on the white line here, and then you have a skirt. And I am increasing every 3rd stitch for the skirt already here, so it's just gonna flare and be amazing. That was my phone, by the way. Nobody checked their phones, we're all good. So I'm using Navia Duo, which is a gorgeous yarn, but it is very difficult to work with. It is comparable to a lot of the sort of lofty woolen spun yarn that I use, except I find it's actually less lofty. It has also a lot of, I think, lanolin on it, which makes it quite tough to work with. but it's just amazing once it's knitted up, and I can only imagine what's going to be after a good wash. So I'm still very happy about it, and I think I'm going to redo this skirt and hopefully make it in time for this knit along that the needle lady, also known as Pinagudi Almeida, is hosting, because it was going to be a fleece skirt. So I was going to use this swatch, which I had swatched for a cardigan, the fleece cardigan, but actually I decided to put it on a skirt hem. So after I'd finished the length of the skirt, I was actually going to do this off the fleece gradually and have them kind of appear more and more as I go down, and then finish off with this, have that around the skirt edge, and it was going to be the most amazing thing, and I hope it still will be, and I hope I will make it in time for the cal, but I'm not very optimistic right now. So yeah, that's that. Off to the frog pond you go, but you will come back, right? I need you to be knitted up. I can't have a stash of this size. The other beasts that will be sent to the frog pond are my Mercury socks. So after the Agatha cardigan, I was like, let's be sensible. This is lace. You clearly don't realize that lace grows, Ellie. So just block these things on the needles and see what you have. And so I did. Put them on the soft blockers while on the needles, just like this. And they're fine, but it just, I don't think I'm gonna want to continue working on them while they're like this, because they're just a bit too wide. It's not quite working out how I want. I might change my mind again and continue knitting on them. But after putting them on my feet, I could literally kind of grasp this bit and have them still fit here and be like, well, this is redundant. This is redundant all the way through the leg. So I still want these socks. I still want them with this yarn. I just want them on a slightly tighter gauge and slightly fewer needles. Fewer stitches. So it's been a learning process. I need to stop being so certain about some of the choices I make, I think. Kind of be a bit more humble that I don't know much about lace knitting. If you need fewer stitches, you need few stitches. If you need a smaller gauge, then that's what you need to do. So in shame, I will frog these and I'll knit them up, and I'm gonna have some smashing looking red Mercury socks in Countess of Lace yarn, knit on higher sharps interchangeables. And the last piece that will be sent to the frog pond has already been there, which is kind of upsetting, and it is my lovely leaf shawl. I just don't want to knit it anymore because my modifications are not working out. It is a great shawl pattern by Sticky Lisa, a Norwegian designer, but the way I'm doing the increases, I don't think it's going to work. And I think maybe the way the pattern is originally written is going to be fine for me. I kind of had a change of heart after doing the Amulet shawl by Helen Stewart, because it does have increases on every side of the outer edge, which I'm trying to avoid with this shawl. But that's looking a bit odd as well. I feel like the increases here, they look uneven. I feel like there's something weird going on around this edge. It's not straight, really. So frog it and do it again. Maybe do it on bigger needles, to be honest. I feel like I've seen a lot of people get kind of fatter stripes than I am getting, so I think no harm in going for a bigger needle size, even if it means above gauge. Happy to hear what you think, those of you who have maybe already made this shawl. I know a lot of Norwegians have, because it is a great shawl and it's going to be amazing, nice and warm, and look really cool in black and red stripes. It's just really kind of pleasing the old goth in me that hasn't really appeared for, wow, half a decade maybe. I used to be a full-on goth since I was 13 until I was about 20. Like full-on like panda makeup and everything. Good times, good times. So I need this shawl. I need this shawl to be finished, and it's gonna be great. I just need to follow the instructions to every point. Just no modifications. Just do what Sticky Lisa says. She knows what she's doing. So that's why this one's being sent to the frog pond. So literally all of these, I am happy with the projects, kind of. I'm just not happy with my own decisions with them. So I'm gonna be redoing them. So it's not technically reducing the number of whips, but I kind of feel like I have by finishing 2 projects and frogging 3. And then starting 2. So now let's get to the meat of this podcast. I mean, this was kind of the main course, so I don't know. It's going to be a very big dessert of the podcast, let's just say that. It's going to be like ice cream, sundae, banana split, brownies and tiramisu and just everything, because it's going to be my stash. I thought maybe I could just grab the skein, hold it, show it up here, but that's going to be exhausting, especially in this heat. So I think what I will do is hover over the skeins that I have on the floor and on my bed, talk about them, kind of zoom in on the ones that I am talking about. Hopefully that's not going to be too unsteady for you guys when you're watching, because it will be handheld. but that's the best thing I can do, I think. If you don't care for watching my yarn, then there isn't really much else in this podcast from now on. It's not going to be a random little rant at the end, I think. I haven't thought of any, that's for sure, and I don't think there will be any time. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Now on to the stash. So this, you guys, is the disaster that's my stash. I mean, the bit that's on my floor. I mean, I have no excuse. This is ridiculous. Stash beyond life expectancy, eh? So, shall we begin? Let's begin in the chunky corner. We have a chunky corner here. So, what we have here is actually a little scrap from a pom-pom sample. So this has actually been in the pom-pom magazine, and it was knit by my friend Anushka. And she gave me this because it has the best color ever. So the yarn is actually this. Don't know if you can read that. That's Welters, something funky chunky. Morello is the color, and it's just really, really pretty. And here's my Skeindeer, the one I'm doing my chuck sweater in. So you can see the kind of the dye I'm using. Oh, here we have some focus. So this is going to be completely amateur level. Some information for those of you who are curious. We can't really spend much time on each yarn because there's just so much. So getting back to focus, you guys. So here is Dale Hägre. I have 2 skeins. I don't know what happened to the other label, but I have 2, and it's just a nice kind of Aran weight woolly wool. Very nice and soft, I think. You might disagree. And here's some Zelana Kauri, which is a yarn that has a bit of possum. So you see the ingredient thing here is 60% fine New Zealand merino, 30% brushtail possum, and 10% mulberry silk. So that might be some nice Aran wrist warmers or something. And then we have some Cascade 220. These are the scraps I have from the sweater I made for Olaf, my boyfriend. Twice. He lost it the first time, so I made a second one. And now I have some scraps left. And I think I'm going to make a little dog jumper. Don't tell Olaf that. It's going to be a surprise. And here's the sweater I'm going to make for him. Here's a pile of Embla by Usk. So let's just read this label, shall we? I'm going to be struggling with focus a lot today, so I'm just going to read it. 100% pure Norwegian wool, 100 grams, has 210 meters. Recommended gauge is 20 stitches. I think that's roughly what I'm going to do as well. So Embla, amazing, amazing kind of DK to worsted yarn. I think we're in the worsted corner now. These are sorted by kind of, yeah, weight, I suppose. So we have some DK here now. We have kind of gone... the blurry lines really between the weights. So here we have 3 skeins of woolly knit Blueface Leicester, and I love this yarn. It's just so nice and silky, soft, has a lot of sheen but not too much. It's just, it feels so good. Highly recommend. You could do my mittens in these if you're scratch sensitive. I could totally endorse doing my mittens in these. And we have some West Yorkshire spinners, 100% Wensleydale. No idea what to do with this lovely skein because it's such an odd fibre. And we have 3 skeins that I have not been able to put into my Hansel Hap. So it's Laxens Limited BFL Masham. Don't know what to do with these. I might play around with dyeing. And we have some Jonaben Viola. So we are in the DK family now, definitely. A very kind of soft, possibly pilly yarn that's going to go into a Sophie cardigan, no doubt. And here's just a box of various DK scraps, bits and bobs. Mostly Sandnes Smart. And a couple of others. And we have some Cheeky Navia Trio here for some... these are good for my mittens as well, actually. As are Selbu Husflid garn. They're good. So we're still in the DK family of rustic yarns. Now we're entering sport. And here's Ullcentrum, which is a fantastic yarn. Cannot say enough good things about this. And look at this amazing charcoal. It's pretty much as close to a natural black you will get. It's 100% Swedish 2-ply wool. So yes, it says 2-ply, but 2-ply can be sport weight. I mean, my Aran Skeindeer yarn is 2-ply, and it's Aran, so 300 meters, 100 grams. It's just fantastic. I love this. These 2. Yeah, we're looking into some mittens there, definitely. And here's the Tuki wool sock yarn that I've been raving about. because it has nylon in it, even though it's rustic, just like the Ovis, etc. Although this is, like I said, more on the sport weight side. And there's some Old Maiden Aunt, which is Corriedale, which is so nice. Look at this colour. Can you tell what my favourite colour is? Knitting wise. I mean, my favourite colour ever is red, but knitting wise, definitely this one. Oh, this is going to be so hard to edit. I apologise on behalf of myself, to myself. So yeah, Quince & Co. Chickadee in this amazing colourway. Melbeck, whatever that means. I'm glad I grabbed this off Loop because they haven't had that colour since. So, and here's some Ask. So the same I'm gonna make a Marius for my boyfriend, I'm gonna make a Marius for me in a slightly finer yarn. So Ask is kind of the sport weight equivalent of Embla, or fingering. I feel like the borders between fingering and sport is very blurred because in the UK we rarely use sport as a term, so a lot of sport yarns will either be labelled as DK or fingering because sport is not traditionally used. So here's more Ask. It's the yellow that I want to use in a cardigan, possibly the Blaster cardigan. And also a pair of mittens. It's just so nice. I love this yarn. They feel differently depending on the dye, I find. Interesting. Here's their so-called burgundy. This is the dark burgundy. Now they're all coming up as pink here, but this one I would say is burgundy, although not that dark. This one I'd say is magenta, really. Not light burgundy as they say. It's so nice. It's gonna be just a bunch of sweaters, really. And here are my cotton, my little cotton box. We have like sort of sport or fingering weight cotton, mostly drop saffron and Søsternegren. Amazing, amazing Latvian wool. I love this. And now we have some PT2, which is quite similar. Both the Latvian yarn and Roma yarn are very similar, so it's just nice little scraps for my Miss Rachel. And Tove, which is a Sandnes equivalent, which you can get as KD yarns actually. And Navia, just lots of gorgeous Navia, enough to make a ginormous garment, no doubt, which I probably will. And some green Navia, which will probably go into my skirt, as well as the icy blue. At least a good portion of it will probably go into the hem. And I love this amazing burgundy. I bought the first one when it was being discontinued, and the last one just never left the shop until Anna of the shop basically said, you can have it. This is the last game, it's just been tormenting me. And I adore this colour, so I was like, yes. So green and yellow and orange and blue, Navia duo. And now we have some Sisu, and this is a superwash sport weight sock yarn. I say sock yarn because it has nylon. That's how I use the term sock yarn. So you could just have it, those of you who use it just to say fingering. I'm being a stubborn one. So here's some drops baby merino. I thought maybe I could use this to strengthen the bottom band of my Elena cardigan. I think it might need that. And we have more baby merino. This is all going to go into my Berbertun cardigan, and I probably have too much. Oh dear. And here we have Finkhoff yarn, which is the German merino, and it's very, very rustic. Would not confuse this with that kind of merino, that's for sure. These are entirely different beasts. Some of these have been caked up. Some of them are still in their skeins, green and red and the black. And here's some linen wool blends. I'm not sure what to do with them. And I have Baby Panda by Derma, which is a fantastic merino, superwash merino. If I was going to go for a superwash merino, this would be it, I think. 175 meters per 50 grams skein. Recommended gauge of 27 to 30 stitches. I want to make the Hjertesølje mittens again with these. I just want to make them in my size for a change. Here we have some lang jowl, however you say that. And lots of drop SABLE. Lots, and some opal. And some regia, and lots of yarn that's gonna go straight into my scrap blanket. Look at that. So most of this came from my advent calendar that Opal had, and some of it is from swaps, and yeah. And we have some knit picks. There's my little knee. So I don't know what to do with this knit picks yarn. It might go well with this and just become some horrible Christmas socks. I quite like that idea. And here is the amazing Tuku wool fingering weight. We are now definitely in fingering weight territory, as if it wasn't clear from all the sock yarn. Oh, I just love this yarn. Each and every skein here is just fantastic. I could just play with these forever. Oh, can you tell I'm a fan? And this is actually a handspun skein that I was given. I don't know what weight it is or anything, so I just put it here. It's pretty colour. And this though, I don't know what to do with this yarn. It's just so precious. It's so incredibly precious. This is Yarn Indulgences. It is kind of a fingering to sport weight, arguably, and has superwash merino, cashmere and nylon. And it's not focusing, so I'm reading it for you. Oh, there we are. 400 yards and 115 grams. And I had to have all 4 skeins because I could not make up my mind. So it is sweater quantities, but do I want a sweater in these colours and with cashmere? Because yes, cashmere is lovely, but it also peels, so that's a trade-off. I'm happy to hear if you think you have a design in mind that you think would be my taste, if you feel like you got the hang of that now. Yeah, I just need a home for these, I think. In terms of garment, I definitely will keep them because they are delicious. And here is a little outliner cake from Wool & Vine. And this actually might get some friends soon, because I might send the shawl I made with this to the frog pond again, because I'm not happy with them with it. And I really like the shawl I just made now, so if I can do kind of the design that Kay Jones of Bakery Bears did, but with that construction method rather than the crescent shape, I think that might be more suitable for this particular yarn, because the design itself with the eyelets and the garter and the kind of hat-like edge is amazing. And here we have some more woolly knit. So this is the 4-ply Classics, which is a merino, quite similar to the Baby Panda merino. And so this is actually going to be a Marius hat, I think, because I have navy blue and I got red and I got white. And I got some more white and blacks. I think that could be some SABLE mittens for someone who's a bit scratch sensitive. And these are the scraps from my bee mittens that I made for my boyfriend. And these are going to go into my mum's Tallulah mittens. And now we shall move on to what's on my bed. Where do we begin? Should we begin from this end? Oh dear. So what we have here is some amazing Woolmiser yarn. This is their pure, so that's 100% merino. And this is all their sock yarn. I think these are going to be the House Baratheon socks. These I don't know, but I might mix them up with the opal neutral colours I have on the floor. I'm thinking this could be a Marius sock with this. I just need to find some red Woolmiser somewhere. Yeah, and here's some Skeindeer. I have a third skein, but I'm knitting on it, and this is going to join that. And whatever scraps I have left, I think I'm going to use with this, which I got from my friend May. I think they could go together. And it's all Skeindeer 4-ply with this amazing baby alpaca, baby camel, angora, and merino lamb's wool mix. Still has that kind of cottony feel that Skeindeer has. I don't know how they do it, but this I feel like has a bit more of the springy and loftiness that I associate with wool. And here's some Debonair. This is 100% merino. This is a BFL nylon mix. I have a second one in this colour, but that's a high twist merino that's going into my exploration station. And here is a, what's her name? 3rd Volt yarn. So that's Lola 3rd Volt yarn skein that I got in Cambridge, which is pretty cool. I don't know what to do with it though. Happy to hear any suggestions there. Not socks. It's 100% merino, so it's not going to be socks, but something. And this skein, you guys, it is very precious to me, especially because it's by Sparkle Duck, and Heather of Sparkle Duck passed away recently. So I'm very happy to have a skein of hers, and I feel slightly intimidated now about what to do with it, because it's so precious, and it's obviously, there won't be any more of these, so it has to be something special. I believe it has nylon in it, so it does. So I could do some pretty cool socks there. And here is some amazing Polwarth in this skein. If I could just, like, this is kind of my Desert Island skein, just because I would need a pillow on a desert island, and this is the perfect pillow and colour. So this is by Pirate Pearl yarn, sorry. Oh, I just love it. And here's some Tandy yarn, 2 natural colours. And actually that's where this has been sourced. So Polwarth is actually, it was being initially bred by the descendants that are now in the Tandy Polwarth wool company, sort of. Yeah, so it's all coming from that, and I want to work these 3 together into something that I can just drown my entire head and neck into, so probably a shawl. And this is the amazing Cumbria skein that I had to get because it was on sale. no plans for it. Still haven't found the second skein that was shipped to me that this was a replacement for. It just bothers me that there's another skein out there that doesn't have a loving home. And here's some Countess Ablaze, and this is more BFL Massam. I initially got this one for Christmas, and it was the most perfect purchase anyone could have ever made. And then I had to have this one, and Countess Ablaze made sure to put in stock for me. So, and obviously I had to get more BFL Massam fingering weight at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival. This is by the Knitting Goddess. She enabled me to buy 4 of these so that I can make a garment. And also this. So I've been toying with the idea of maybe doing like a Crazy Marius with some pink. And these kind of stripy. It's going to be stripy when I knit it up. But I don't know. There are other things out there than Marius's, and I should maybe try those instead. So maybe not colour work. Maybe this can go elsewhere or for these. So I don't know, really. And here's some loft. I thought I would put this loft skein into that shawl, but I decided not to. It's quite big, and I should follow the pattern when you're testing it, really. This is what I had left from the shawl. There were some minis from the other colours, but just because I wanted to do whole rows. Yeah, pretty good. And it doesn't weigh anything. I just love it. And here's Travel Knitter. Can you tell? A Hoard Travel Knitter. So these 4 I have planned to put into the Alicia Beth cardigan by Justina Lokoska. It's gonna happen. I want it to happen. I think just the fleece cardigan will have to jump ahead in the queue. But it will happen. And just, oh, their colours though. Their colours. And this is Larissa Travel Knitter's Camel and Silk blend. It's just so soft. This is the softest yarn I've ever felt. And it's quite durable because the silk and camel as a long staple. It's not focusing, but you get the idea that the color is the best thing ever. Just need to come up with a good project for this particular skein. Probably something, maybe a lacy cowl. And here's some more of the BFL sock yarn, which this also is, by the way. I didn't say that. I was going to do colour work with 1 skein of this and 1 of that, but then I got the other 3. So, garment, and this could be some socks on its own, or with whatever scraps I end up with from the cardigan. And here's a little woolen vine gem hiding. This is the Gashley Crumb yarn on the narwhal base. So that's a silk, BFL, and what else? Cashmere? Yeah, cashmere blend. So it's just, this yarn is so unique, I find it very hard to find a friend for it. So I tried to experiment a bit with some Triskelion yarn that has a very similar, if not the same base. And I got some shades of blue and grey here. I thought they could be complementary, but now I'm not so sure. So I might be looking elsewhere for a friend for this yarn. Because I don't know if I want to do a single skein project, i.e. shawl. So, one more colour to do a shawl with it. Anyway, here are some little scraps from my kind of Libyan ME projects, as well as Countess Ablaze. So this went into my snow melt shawl, designed by Helen Stewart. These 2 went into the amulet shawl, designed by Helen Stewart. And there's the other skein in the same colorway. It has a bit more of the light blue in it, so it could be some interesting socks there. Because it's also BFL nylon. Can you tell I like them? And this is the yarn that was my fade once. So that's where you're seeing a lot of kind of double cakes. So this is what did not go into the fade, and this did. So this is a bit more nudely. So yeah, brown, orange, yellow, cream, and red. And these are 3 new Libyan ME skeins that I got at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. That I thought, if I rip out the fade, these could go into that, and it could be something. I don't know what, but it could be something. And here's the hedgehog fibers. And the hedgehog fibers that I put into the fade and now ripped out. So this is what I didn't put in, the remaining bit of the cake. And this is the little noodle cake that used to be the fade. The final colour, actually. And here is some amazing homespun house yarn. And this is all from the local yarn club. So she did a local yarn club, and these were the 3 colours. So first, second, third. And I got to swap another 2 so I could do a sweatshirt, because I love this. It is perfect, really, for colour work. But I might actually not do colour work with it. And now it's my fionnual pile. Lots of colours here. Different ones. Here's some of the kind of creamy, oatmeal-y colour that I haven't used in my Miss Rachel. Here's a skein of Celia. Now you know there are another 2 in the stripy lovely leaf shawl. Lovely shawl. And here's some black fionnual. Lots of white fionnual. Lots. You need lots of white when you're gonna use them with other colors. Said every color work knit forever. And here's two throw gummer serie, so 2-ply old series, which is almost the same as Finer, just has a higher twist. So, and apparently this is more brown. I was not aware. I thought these were both black, but this one looks more brown to me. So here's some lamb's wool, you guys. I adore Roma lamb's wool. Hopefully Isolde will get that in stock as well. Yet to knit. I have yet to knit with this, but I mean, it's just the best. And here is some Susan Crawford Fenella. I find this a bit sort of flimsy compared to these other wools, compared to some Shetland wools, but it's a very nice replica of a sort of vintage yarn that was used in kind of these sort of petite little sweaters the ladies used to wear. I kind of regret having caked these up because they don't really want to stain the cake. I should have just kept them in these lovely knots, hanks. There's some Drops Flora. I was kind of intrigued by how they would blend wool and alpaca. I don't really like alpaca, but I quite like when I mix it with wool. And this color though, I kind of had to have it really. Look at that yellow. So probably something that will be gift knitted, I think. There's some ullteppegarn, which means wool blanket yarn, which is a true understatement for a very affordable, possibly easily available for a lot of Norwegians, yarn that has 100% wool and 200 meters in a little 50-gram ball. So these are just future mittens, really. As are these, really. This is my Holst mountain. So you can see why it bothers me that I am going to get more Holst yarn, possibly, for my Loppa cardigan, my free cardigan. Because I have plenty. But this is to be allocated into another cardigan, and the reason why I'm being so particular about this is because this ink colorway does not exist anymore, and it's exactly what I want to use in the cardigan. So the other cardigan I have in mind, not the fleece cardigan. And here's some JC Rennie, and this color though, look at that, it is the best. And wow, what do we have here? There is some 2-ply jumper weight by Jameson & Smith. Some Spindrift. This is all 100% rustic wool, in case there was any doubt. And yeah, some Shetland Heritage. So if you find these yarns too scratchy for you, go look into Shetland Heritage. It is delicious. Kettle yarn that I forgot to mention while we were here last time. And some Madeline Tosh. So the kettle yarn, by the way, is a silk yak and merino blend. That's going to go into a lovely shawl. This is just 100% high twist merino. And just skipping over here to Cascade 220 fingering weight, which is leftovers that I had from my mitten calendar, and something I was going to do lateral mittens in, but I never did. And here's some amazing Issachar yarn. This is the Highland wool, which actually, though it's being priced much higher, it's rather similar to Holst once you wash up the Holst. So yeah, there's that. And there's Issachar Twinny, which I now think could be a lovely hap, really. Didn't work into the cardigan. I think it's not good for a loose gauge unless you're going for something shawly. There's Navia Uno, which is kind of the single ply take on Navia Duo. And here's some O's, etc. Now this one is actually just a guest in my stash. It's going to be given to a lucky winner for the Collier World Socks Cal, so that's an incentive to take part in that knit along. Now this is a lot softer actually than the Texelar sock yarn that I'm knitting with. So this, and this yellow and this red, this is just so much softer. It's still a rustic sock yarn with nylon, but yeah, you should totally be wanting this yarn, that's what I'm trying to say. And now onto the lace, and I have a pile of Shetland lace that I was given from a friend of mine who, she's like 9, her mom basically gave it to me, and she is 90 something, and she used to have a yarn shop, so she, in Scotland, so she just gave me lots of like deep brown lace yarn, 100% rustic wool, and also lots of white. And I mean, maybe we're looking into another hap again. And now jumping back here where I have some Jameson's Ultra. And there's more Jameson Ultra on my bedside table because I thought it's hard to lean over my bed. So this is what we're talking about. It is amazing lace weight yarn that has 194 meters in a 25 gram skein. I just so excited. So what's on my bed there? It's gonna go into the Ursula cardigan by Kate Davis. This is probably just going to be mittens. Sorry if I'm making anyone motion sick. And here's some St. Kilda by Black Yarns. No plans for these. I thought colorwork mittens, but now I don't know. And here's some lace from Wollmeise, and that is the very last, if you don't count this lace cone. I would say, you know, this yarn, it's essentially a sweater quantity of light fingering weight in one skein. And I mean, this color though, can you tell that I love it? I would say this is light fingering rather than lace, personally. So that could be worth looking into if you want a light garment. Featherweight, for instance. Oh, and for honesty's sake, I should mention what I have in my window as well. So that's all we have. The entire stash, you guys. That took a while, didn't it? It's going to take way longer to knit up, so I'm the one who's going to suffer, right? Oh dear. So I am now going to put all this back into bags, back into the shelf, and whenever it fits. I have a shopping problem. I do not endorse this kind of stashing unless you feel like you're going to live to 100 years old and you will have plenty of time to knit this up. In time, I will see, you know, what will I be knitting with and what will I not be knitting with, and decide, you know, maybe this can be sold, maybe this can be swapped. For now, I don't have a big problem with having this stash, but if you do feel like it's weighing you down, I mean, don't feel like you should be having all this stuff. It's crazy, really. And yeah, there's more yarn coming my way. So really, that's all I wanted to say for today. I hope you had an amazing week. Hope you will have a great week until I see you next time. So goodbye. So I just finished editing this episode and figured I should probably add a little something kind of in response to the events that you'll no doubt have heard of that happened in Manchester. A lot of people were killed and injured, and I don't really know what to say. I have my deepest condolences to everybody who's been affected by this, and yeah, there are really no words, but I mean, as I'm sure you also have heard, that the UK is this sort of terror danger or something. It's been raised to critical. I don't know what that means, what that's based on. I don't know what's going to happen next. I just want everybody to know that things are generally alright here. Things are pretty much business as usual in London. I mean, I walked in fairly central areas of London today. People are living their lives. They're out in the beautiful weather. I saw like a sort of explosion sniffing dog, whatever that is, today. So I mean, there are people at work on this, which is good to know. But yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that I'm okay. Most people here are okay, but there are of course those that are very much affected by this event, whether they were personally affected or just felt that this has really kind of thrown their emotional, mental state. My hearts go out to everybody who is affected one way or another. There is no kind of right or wrong way to feel about these things. I didn't want to add this thing at the end to make everybody feel bad. I just kind of wanted to, it felt weird not saying anything, not having any commentary on this whatsoever, and I guess if I'm going to say anything, it's just to kind of be kind to one another. Remember that everybody is shocked and appalled and to some extent scared by this event. You know, there's the only villains are the people who are behind this, and I hope just people will be looking after one another. Remember that community is strength. You know, there's so much good in the world. It's hard to remember when you're in a country where, you know, suddenly the situation is critical, and obviously if, you know, the terror threat is critical, then London is a likely target, and I live in Zone 1 in London, which is like the most populated part, so it's like I don't feel like I'm in a war zone. It's not what's going on here, but in a way you kind of get the sense of maybe, you know, something that might resemble a percentage of how people in war zones might feel, and it certainly increases my empathy a lot with those people who are experiencing this on a day-to-day basis. But I feel safe, I feel well taken care of. I trust in that people who are at work on this are doing the best that they can, so I don't want people to worry, and I want people to just feel safe, and I have just well wishes for those who are affected by the recent tragedies. That's, I guess, what I wanted to say. So, as I always say, I hope you will have an amazing week until I see you next time, and I mean that. So, bye.